What must it be like to always have the weight of expectation bearing down on you? If you want to know, ask an engineer who has worked on the BMW 3 Series. This Arcade always has hefty anticipation heaped upon its roof rack, being the brand's longest running and most popular model. Indeed, it accounts for nearly a third of BMW's annual sales. For that reason, BMW's reluctance to stray too far from its successful formula is entirely understandable. Since 1975, the theme of a well-packaged, sporty, rear-wheel drive saloon remains front and center of the 3 Series ethos, and that's still intact for this 7th generation model. However, that doesn't mean it can't be added to. These days, you also get the option of 4-wheel drive X-Drive versions, along with a broad range of petrol and diesel and hybrid engines, and a choice of 3 trim levels to suit most tastes and budgets. That keeps it broadly in line with the rest of BMW's range, from the 1 Series family hatchback to the larger 5 Series luxury saloon. But the big questions hanging over the 3 Series are, is it as good, or even better than, its 2 chief executive adversaries, the Mercedes-Benz C-Class and Audi A4, and has it reclaimed its sportiest saloon crown from the Alfa Romeo Giulia and Jaguar Z? The entry-level diesel, the 148 bhp 318D, has good mid-range flexibility, so it never feels slow, but if your budget can cover it, we recommend going for our favorite 320D. Compared to the 318D, the 320D's 187 bhp makes it quicker with few downsides. If you desire a diesel with the ability to worry hot hatches, though, there's the 330D. Its 6-cylinder diesel engine offers rapid acceleration. 0 to 62 miles per hour is dealt with in just 5.5 seconds. There are various suspension options on the 3 Series, and even the standard suspension is set up more for poise and control than ultimate comfort. It's very well controlled, so it won't bounce you out of your seat over heavily undulating roads like the C-Class can, but you always feel more of bumps as they pass beneath the car than you do in the A4. Wind noise is very well contained at motorway speeds, but road noise is slightly more pronounced than in smaller wheeled versions of the A4. Suspension noise, again, probably not helped by the stiff side walls of the run-flat tires, is also noticeable over bumps. The 6-cylinder engines sound sweet while the 4-cylinder engines have a gruffer, but acceptable note. Still, the 320D's engine is pretty muted compared with the C220D's, but the A440 TDI is even quieter and less prone to sending vibrations through the pedals at a standstill. The driver's seat is supportive if you're on a long journey and holds you in place very well when you're cornering quickly. It's a shame that, as with most BMWs, you have to pay extra for adjustable lumbar support, but at least it isn't a pricey option. With a steering wheel that moves extensively up and down and in and out, plus lots of seat height adjustment, you won't struggle to get comfortable.
The new 3 Series interior is very hard to fault, so everything from the driving position, visibility, infotainment system is among the very best of what you'll find in the class. And it looks great too. The materials have a real good quality look to them, all over the dash, the materials look nice, but the only thing is that actually an A4 feels slightly more premium. But overall, quality inside the 3 Series is absolutely excellent. Now, the driving position, it's very good. There's plenty of adjustment in the seat and in the steering wheel too, loads of adjustment. But the only thing is that the pedals are actually offset quite a bit to the right. Now, it is a bit annoying, but it's also something that is equally as noticeable in an A4 or a C-Class. As for visibility, there's absolutely no problem with the view out the front. It's very good, very clear, but saloons typically aren't very good to see out the back of, and the 3 Series is no exception to that. But the good thing is, you get front and rear parking sensors, you get a reversing camera, and you get parking assistant, which actually finds you a parking space and steers you into it, all as standard. Now, what about infotainment? So, you get an 8.8-inch touchscreen infotainment system, and if you go for an M Sport model, that goes to a bigger 10.3-inch screen. But regardless of the size, it's absolutely packed with features. And as we've come to expect with BMWs over the years, it has brilliant hardware that's backed up by software that's been very well thought through. It is pin sharp in its responsiveness on this touchscreen, so it's very easy to use when you're parked. But actually, if you're on the move, then you want to be using this rotary dial down here. This is classic iDrive, and really it's great that it's still here. You've still got this rotary dial and physical shortcut buttons as well. But you also get a voice command system that works in a similar way to Amazon's Alexa or Apple Siri. And all you have to do to activate it is say, "Hey BMW."
Hello, what can I help you with?
So that is a handy feature to have as well. And actually, this infotainment system is the best that you'll find in the class. The touchscreen is very responsive, much more so than the laggy one that you get in the C-Class, and it's only really the A4 that comes close to being as good as this infotainment system. But with the A4, it doesn't get a touchscreen, and the screen that it does get isn't quite as crisp and clear as the one in the 3 Series. What about space up front? Well, you get slightly more legroom than you do in a C-Class and in an A4, and headroom is very generous, and it's a nice wide interior as well. As for the glove box, it's a bit on the small side, but that's not quite so bad because you've got these other generous storage compartments, and the door bins as well are decent size, and they're partitioned, which is quite helpful. So, what about space in the back? Well, compared to its premium rivals, it's very impressive back here. And actually, headroom is very similar to what you'd get in the back of an A4, but actually legroom is a little bit more generous. And compared to a C-Class overall, there's more space in the back of this 3 Series. So compared to its premium rivals, it's very impressive. But it's worth bearing in mind that actually there are cheaper rivals, like the Skoda Superb and the Volkswagen Passat, that do offer much more space. So if space is your absolute priority, it might be worth considering them as well. But what about the boot? In terms of size, it's very similar as to what you'd get in an Audi A4, but it's slightly bigger than the Mercedes C-Class. The 3 Series as well has a more squared off and practical shape than the Mercedes. And 40-20-40 split folding rear seats come as standard, and if you want to put those down, there are some levers in the back here that you pull, and slightly annoyingly, you have to go into the back and pull them down yourself. First world problems, I know, but the good news is, when they are down, that the floor is pretty flat all the way through. There aren't really any awkward lumps or bumps in the boot floor. So compared to its premium rivals, the 3 Series has a really impressive boot.
The cheapest version for company car drivers is the 330 Hybrid, which emits just 39 grams/km of CO2 to keep it in the low tax bands. The 318D will feature on many company car lists, as will the 320D, but both incur a 4% diesel surcharge. The 320D is very economical in real-world driving, averaging 47.2 miles per gallon in our true MPG tests. To get the best economy out of the 330Es, you need to keep the battery charged, because otherwise you're basically running on a 2.0-litre petrol engine.